Hello, thank you for joining me again. Tonight's selection was Mr. Brooks, starring Kevin Costner, Demi Moore, William Hurt, and Dane Cook. And the first thing that I want to say about this movie is, wow, what a mind fuck of a movie. And just really, really messes with you. Oh, I'm not going to get into too much for this one. The two main things that I want to talk about that really stood out in my mind were the plot and the characters. And let's start off with the plot. This is a movie about a serial killer and a detective that's trying to catch him. Now, that seems like a pretty basic storyline, but they did so much with it in this movie. They really take that basic plot and really flip it around and twist it all up. And I loved it. Kevin Costner plays Mr. Brooks, who is a devoted family man, good husband, good father, a businessman, a philanthropist, someone who's giving of his time and money, just a really outstanding pillar of the community. He also just happens to be a serial killer. But one of the things they did with this particular movie that I really liked was he's not a serial killer because he likes it, because he likes to do it. He says many times throughout the movie that he hates the fact that he kills people, but he's addicted to it. And that is one of the big problems, and that's one of the issues. Now that I've given you a basic plot outline, I want to talk about the characters some, and then we're going to come back to the plot. There's a couple things that I want to explain about the characters that I so much enjoyed, and some of these things just really add a lot of extra tension and extra depth to the plot. Dane Cook plays an unfortunate witness to one of Kevin Costner's murders. But instead of going to the police, he decides to confront Mr. Brooks directly. And his character is, in many ways, very annoying, but at the same time, his character is intriguing, because it is really up in the air throughout the movie what it is that he's going to end up doing. You don't know which direction he's going to go. You don't know what he's going to do, and it keeps you guessing, it keeps you intrigued, and it keeps you wanting to see more. Demi Moore plays a detective who is on the trail of Kevin Costner's character, Mr. Brooks, who's trying to catch him. And she's having a lot of difficulty because Mr. Brooks does not leave any evidence, ever. And it's kind of one of the big things about his character in particular, but we will talk about that here in a little bit. And there's a little bit of backstory given to Demi Moore's character. She is not a generic cop. There's some backstory given, there's some side storyline and subplots given with her character. But one of the things that I like that they did was they didn't put those subplots in just so there would be more to a character than just a detective. Those little subplots that they put in are important to the story. They're very important to the story, and they flesh themselves out by the end of the movie. Kevin Costner's character, like I said before, is Mr. Brooks, who is this pillar of the community who is also happens to be addicted to killing. And the way they were able to portray his character really speaks volumes about Kevin Costner's ability, because he's so because he is addicted to killing and because he doesn't really want to do it, but he feels that he has to, they make his character just incredibly smart when it comes to what it is he's doing. He never leaves any evidence behind, any at all. He knows exactly what he's doing. He plans everything out to the absolute last minute detail. And he's almost obsessive about his killings. He's very calm. He's very methodical. He's very smart. He's polite. And because that is the way he portrays the character, you almost forget that he is a serial killer. You know that he is. You know that he's killed lots of people. And it's almost like you spend the entire movie waiting for him to lose that calm and to just snap. That it really keeps you going. You really want to see if he's going to end up losing it, or if he's just going to stay calm and smart and collected. Now, one of probably my absolute favorite thing about this movie was William Hurt. William Hurt plays a character named Marshall, who you might think, when you're watching the movie, you might think that he's like an alter ego of Mr. Brooks, but it's really not. What William Hurt is playing is Kevin Costner's addiction. He's portraying this addiction to killing that he has. He's the one that's always reminding him to be smart and be methodical and remember all the little details. He's also the part of Mr. Brooks' character that helps him look at the bigger picture on a lot of things. And there are many things that come up that William Hurt has to give his input on to help Kevin Costner's character make the right decision. Now that we've talked about the character some, we're going to go back to the plot. Now that I've explained a little bit about what the character's like, we're going to go back and talk about some things that I liked about the plot. Like I mentioned when I was talking about Demi Moore's character, the detective, they throw in some things in for her story that may almost seem like throwaway things, things they just threw in to flesh her character out some. But I like that they kept all the details that they put into everything. They kept them important in the storyline. For instance, one of the things with Demi Moore's character is that she's in the middle of a divorce. And instead of putting that in to make it seem like she's just angry or any of these things, it actually helps her, because it gives, through some different ways that they go about it, it gives her a timeline for needing to try to catch this guy. So instead of just being throwaway, it's actually important for her character, and it's important for the storyline. And I like that they did that. I like that they didn't throw extraneous details in anywhere. Everything is involved in the story. Everything keeps the plot moving forward. Even Kevin Costner's Kevin Costner's character, Mr. Brooks, he has a lot of family drama that's going on throughout the movie, mostly with his daughter. And again, that's such an important part of the storyline. Dane Cook's character, Mr. Smith, all the information they give about him, by the end of the movie, ends up making sense in the way things are resolved. And on a side note, about that, who knew that Dane Cook could actually act? I had no idea. Every movie I've ever seen him in, he just plays himself, Dane Cook, a comic. But you actually see some acting ability in this movie. I didn't know. I had no idea. But anyway, those are the two basic things that I wanted to talk about for this one. I know this is going to be a little bit of a shorter review, but there's so much that I would love to talk about with this. But I promised myself that I would try to do all of these reviews spoiler free. So I'm trying to stick to that. Would definitely recommend this. It's a little bit, it's quite an experience. Really, you're either gonna love, this is a movie that I have a feeling that people are either gonna really love or really hate. Something that I want to start doing with these reviews, and I always did them in all the other reviews that I've ever done. I'm talking about my favorite part and my favorite line. My favorite line in the movie has got to be from Demi Moore. She's in her divorce proceedings, and she looks her husband right in the eye and says, "You know what would really make my life a lot easier? If you would just get hit by a truck and die." And while it's not a particularly funny line, it is delivered just perfectly. It really that was one of my favorite parts of the movie. But my real favorite part was any time that Kevin Costner is speaking to William Hurt's character, speaking to his addiction, because that's how they portray it, as them having a conversation. And anytime that happens, it's just brilliance on the part of the writing, the directing, the acting, everything. Those parts were just absolutely perfect. So anyway, to wrap this up, would definitely recommend this movie. If you have a little bit of a twisted sense of humor, you'd probably really like it. And if you don't, you'd probably really like it anyway, just because the acting is fantastic in it. And it's a pretty good story. So hopefully I will get another one of these done in a couple of nights. Until then.